Hour 2 Overdrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Bryan Hayes, Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles, McLennan, Gerry's percentage. Later in the hour, not mini Gerry, the real Gerry's. We've got a full Gerry's in half an hour. And Cory Schneider coming up here in a moment, get his take on. We'll play JT Miller today. You see, the scrum was asking him about Jim Rutherford's comments.
Well, you knew it was coming, right?
Of course. Absolutely. Of course. Obviously. I didn't see anyone ask Pettersson. I didn't see it go viral anyway. I don't know if he spoke with the media or not. But that's coming too, right? You got to ask Elias Pettersson.
Is why you want this to be dealt with. One guy, two guys, but the other guys playing in the best league in the world, trying to focus on their game and team wins and doing their business. Imagine having to answer that daily.
Yeah, it would be painful. It would be painful.
It's a distraction. And you know, there's guys in that team, I guarantee, are buddies with JT, and they're sitting there watching this guy get grilled every day and then looking at Pettersson. Are you going to talk? Like, it's a giant distraction, even if you're getting hit by it because you're in the room. Like, to me, there's like a cloud over that dressing room. And I keep coming back to it. I feel bad for Quinn Hughes. The guy's been unbelievable this season, and you know, I don't know where they're going to end up. I still think they're a playoff team.
Yeah, they're hovering right now.
Yeah, they're right there.
Obviously, they're certainly in the mix.
Yeah, and Calgary's right there. Look, Washington won again. That's all they do.
They
is win.
never lose, Washington. To their credit, and again, a low-scoring game. They gave up nothing. Yeah. And they
just give Carberry the Jack Adams Trophy. Let him. That's just so that no one has to do research. Give it to him and let it be over with.
Yeah.
Logan Thompson is 23 wins, 2 losses, and 3 OT losses.
Okay, let me ask you guys, because we're going to have our top 25 stuff coming out, right, where we do the halfway mark. It's a bit beyond the halfway mark.
Well, if you're going to ask Noodles if he should be in the top 25, of course he's going to say yes. And you know what?
I'm not going to say
I'm going to say yes, too.
Obvious. I would hope so. I would hope we all have Logan Thompson in the top 25. Do we all have him on there?
I do believe
where are you going with this? There's some kind of jerk element because I know you're going to go with
I was going to ask you.
You're going to go Ovi, aren't you?
Top 20.
I don't have Ovi in my top 25. I do not. I was just wondering how high up the list it could possibly be. Like, where would you rank Logan Thompson's season when you bring everyone else into the fold? You don't have to give your exact answer, but has he been top 10 in the league for you? Top 15, top 25? Like,
I think with a record like that, it's got to be kind of between 15 and 20, doesn't it?
Okay.
I had him at 19.
19, all right.
Boom goes the dynamite.
Boom goes the
right
dynamite.
But, I mean, I had a tough time with that list because I think there's people that may not be having the greatest season, but they have to me, they're still on that list.
They can't be on the list, though. It's got to be based on what they've done so far. Do you have JT Miller on that list?
No.
Elias Pettersson?
No.
Auston Matthews?
Yes.
I did.
Auston Matthews. You didn't put Auston Matthews
and
on
boom
that
goes
list?
the dynamite.
No. It's based on how it's recalibrating what they've done so far this year. I don't think he's been a top 25 player in the league.
Well, I beg to differ on that.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Like Auston Matthews for me, because of injury. That's not because of him not playing well. Like,
you have to.
You don't think he's in
the
top 25, Noodles?
I said I didn't.
I had him in the top 25.
I didn't.
Yeah, that's a.
Hang on a sec.
With the list.
Yeah.
What?
I'm telling you, based
this
on
guy's crazy over here.
Dude, something's wrong with you. The last 2 weeks you've been blurting out stuff that's crazy,
How many games has he played this year? How many games has he played? How many times have we said, man, this guy just doesn't look like himself? Here's another thing. I don't have McDavid at 1. Do you have McDavid at 1?
I had McDavid at 1. Yes,
How?
He's the best player in the world.
Of course, but that's not the practice.
It's the practice.
Who's the best player.
I see the list the way I want to see it, not the way you
okay, so we can just interpret it anyway. Okay, I'm going to put Daryl Sittler on mine next year.
No.
I love Daryl.
What are the parameters from this made-up list?
I'm taking Dougie Gilmore then.
Okay, I'll give you Dougie. I'd like Dougie too. Wendell's on mine.
What was the parameters of this made-up list?
It's recalibrating based on what we've seen so far this year. Who have been the top 25 players of this season based on the way they play?
We got a guest on the line. Can we? I want to dig into this list a little bit later.
Oh man, I am flabbergasted by your approach to this list, and I'm disappointed.
Let's get. You know what? Why don't we get Doogie to come up with some type of mock list, and we'll discuss and maybe have it out then.
Okay. Maybe I misinterpreted the rules. Let me clarify.
I don't think you did.
Could be on me.
Maybe I did. I apologize. I'm not apologizing to anybody.
You don't have to apologize to anything.
Then.
Like, to clarify, do I think Matthews is one of the 5 best players in the league and world? Absolutely. Of course he is.
Not apparently on your list.
But not because this year hasn't been a great year for him. Like, that's
Dude, I get it. But even not – get the guest on, man.
All right. Here's Cory Schneider of the NHL Network.
I just had my popcorn here just listening to you guys squabble. That was fun.
Just yelling and screaming about a
Cory,
list
let me
that
ask
we've
you
created.
this to start off this interview. If you had a list of the 25 best players in the NHL leading up to this particular day right now, would Auston Matthews be in your top 25?
Yeah, he would be. I'd have to have him on there.
Okay. Very much.
Okay, I don't think you described it properly.
When he's healthy, if I had to make a roster of my 25 best players,
That's not the practice, dude. That's not what we're talking. I'm yelling at Cory Schneider. It's not about if everyone's healthy and you're starting a game tonight, who's the best player. Matthews I would have as probably number 3, maybe number 4 on that list, and I'd have McDavid number 1. It's who's had the best year up until this day. Like from game 1 through to today, that's what we're asking. And listen, if you see that way,
all-star team.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you see Auston that way, listen, go ahead. Yeah. But I don't know. I don't think he's been one of the 25 best players because I don't think he's played enough. I think he's been injured, and when he has played at times, he's been laboring.
Our team would beat his team.
What's that?
I said I bet you our team would beat your team.
Possibly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you guys, listen, you two are goalies. I'll tell you who I had at number 1.
Go ahead.
Connor Hellebuyck. Wow.
I had Connor Hellebuyck at number 1. I think he's been the best player in the league so far up to this point.
That we can agree upon.
Oh, there we go. We got an agreement.
See?
I like it.
See, now you're back in the good graces with Cory.
Now Cory's my guy.
And Cory, what you do also have to understand is this guy runs the show. He runs this operation. And whenever there's an exercise like this, he believes that his list is rock solid. And anyone that has an argument with him, he thinks that they're certifiably nuts. That's his problem. He's a control freak.
Well, Jamie, one day when I get my show with my name on it, I can make my own list.
There you go.
See, it's not. But see, I'm not the one running the show. It is Bryan Hayes because I'm going to pass it off to him because my list, I thought like I had to have reputation in there as well because I'm like, for me, I'm like, Connor McDavid's the best player. He's my number 1 regardless. Like,
of course he is.
I must have misinterpreted.
But Logan Thompson's not the best goalie, though. This is the thing. And now we're yelling and screaming.
Yeah.
I will ask you, Cory, like, where would Logan Thompson for you rank in terms of, like, if you're starting a team today, is he one of the 5 goalies you choose? Is he in the top 10? Like, where would Logan Thompson be for you?
That's a great question. If I was starting a team today and you factor in everything, not just this season, he might crack the top 10, like the lower end of the top 10. It's just not a big enough sample size yet for me. He's having a tremendous season. He's doing it's unbelievable. So I give him full marks for this year. But I'd rather take a Shesterkin or a Hellebuyck or a Vasilevsky, or you can go down the list until you get to him. But he's inched his way up there. I think he might be in the bottom part of the top 10 right now.
Okay.
So quick follow up on the goaltending, Cory. Like we see now, there's only a few standalones of guys who are going to be on pace to play north of 60. Do you just believe that that's the trend of the league with sports science, all of that coming in, or is it just that there is a cycle where guys aren't wired to play 65 to 70 now? It's just more a starter is 55 games.
I think it's a bit of both. So I don't know if that's copping out, but I think 2 things can be true at once. I think the game and the pace and the importance of every game now, it's the coach is trying to win every single game. There aren't any more, let's pencil in the backup here, let's throw our guys. Like you can't just count wins on the schedule anymore. I think like you could maybe 20 years ago if you were a good team. Now you got to win every night. So, it's you want your goalies fresh, you want them rested. But at the same time, I do agree that it is a bit of a mentality thing that fewer guys have that Marty Brodeur, Patty Waugh mentality where it's my net and I want to play every single night, fatigue or whatever sports science says be damned, and I'm going to go out there and will myself to win. So I think it is a bit that, I don't know how many kids and juniors are playing 50, 60 games a year. It's tough to do. It's hard to do until you do it. And I think teams are scared of pushing guys too hard and burning them out, or have them not be ready come playoff time.
But in order to do that, Corey, like you talk about the playoffs, like Toronto here, Joseph Wall, like if he's decided to be the guy come playoff time, he's got to figure out a way to play every night. So sooner or later, you got to just throw yourself in there, or have somebody throw you in there and say, "We need you to go," and you got to get used to going, or you'll never be able to do it.
It's true, yeah. Because again, I think teams that try to do tandems in the playoffs just don't work. Like the Bruins are doing it, and it's just you got to have one guy who's conditioned and able to do it. And it's hard to ask of that a guy. I'm going to put you playing every other night for potentially 2 months in the most important part of the season when you've never done it. And I feel like you got to condition guys to get into that mode and that mentality, and because that's where it all matters is come April and May. So I agree that you got to at some point you got to be the guy, and you got to be ready and willing to do that and able to do that. And I think it's more mental than physical when you get to that point.
We're chatting with Cory Schneider, and we began the hour like we have countless times this year talking about this Vancouver Canucks scenario. And why don't we play this clip? JT Miller, I know you're aware of this, Corey, about Jim Rutherford speaking with the Globe and Mail yesterday, and basically saying it's come to a head. It's untenable. It can't continue. These guys, they have an issue, Pettersson and Miller, and they've got to change. And Miller was asked about that in a scrum earlier this morning. Here's what he had to say.
What's your reaction to Jim Rutherford's comments yesterday or this week on the situation with you and Petey?
I don't have one.
You don't have any comments?
No.
Is there still all good between you two guys?
I'm not commenting on this.
Okay, so no comment from JT. You're very familiar with the market, and what do you make of this story? JT Miller, Elias Pettersson, the Canucks, the season imbalance, and what do you think an ideal world would look like for the Vancouver Canucks? By the end of the year, what's reasonable here?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. It's very confusing from afar. I mean, again, I've played there, and not many people are still there from when I played. But again, knowing the market and knowing the temperature of the fan base, I'm not sure what's going on. It just seems like there's always something going on there. Whether it was Bo Horvat and his contract, and then he gets traded, and then Thatcher Demko's injury situation is kind of a mystery, and now this has been simmering for over a year now. Bruce Boudreau, how he got let go. It just always seems like there's something going on. And
why though? Why does it happen there, Corey? Like it just seems like I said it yesterday. It's like they finally get it right. They get Tocchet in there. They have a great season. They almost win the President's Trophy. They take Edmonton to the brink, and then all of a sudden it's just back to a gong show. Like, what is it about the market that has to happen? I don't get it.
I don't either. I don't know if it's a coincidence or just what it is, because it's different management now than when I was there with Roberto and all that stuff. But I know that people love a good story, and they're gonna grab onto the juicy story. So I understand that, but I think it comes to all levels of the organization. As a player, you have to be an adult and learn how to play with a guy. I didn't get along with everybody I played with, and I'm sure not everyone got along with me. But you find a way to figure it out like adults and play together. So that's on JT and Elias potentially. The coaching staff, like Tocchet, it's his team, so he's got to set the standard. So here, guys, here's what's acceptable, and here's it. Can you get over this, or can you not? Like that's the coach's job. And then management, you knew what JT Miller was like. You know what Elias Pettersson's like. You don't commit that much money in years without knowing exactly who these people are. So you knew that this could be an issue. You kept them both, and then you fan the flames by saying stuff like this. Like when you're in that market, they're going to ask you about it. And now you put your players in a tough spot. So now they got to answer questions about what you said about the drama. It's like, hey, guys, let's get on the same page here, and let's have a clear message for the organization that this is what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. And they just can't seem to do that right now, and I can't understand why.
Yeah, it's wild, man. And yet, again, they're right there chasing a playoff spot. And if everyone's healthy and they get in and everyone's kumbaya, I mean, maybe
that is the crazy thing, Brian. They do have a pretty damn good record with all this nonsense.
Yeah.
Quinn Hughes could be the MVP too. Like he's having an outstanding year, and it might go for waste.
Absolutely. The guy's been phenomenal. All right, we're chatting with Cory Schneider. In terms of that mentality we referenced with the goaltenders, like the old school, it's my net and I want it. I'm curious how you think it applies to the upcoming Four Nations face-off, where, like, I would have to believe it's a lock. Hellebuck is the guy for the American team. I don't know what else he could possibly do, but would you expect him to have to lobby for that? Would he have to go in there and be like, I want to be the man, I'm going to be the man, I'm playing every single night? What do you anticipate happening at a tournament like this that is, again, it's manufactured. We're not quite certain what it's going to look like, what it's going to feel like. He plays so much for Winnipeg. How do you expect Hellebuyck in particular to handle his role with the American team at the Four Nations face-off?
Yeah, I mean, I would think it's his net to start. It's yours to lose. Maybe we filter in either Swayman or Ottinger in one of the round-robin games just to get him a look in case. But it's yours until you prove otherwise. And that's the hard thing about a short tournament. You don't have a lot of time to reassess and make adjustments. But the way he's played, he's left no doubt that it's his net. Swayman's been average, better lately, but lack of experience. And Ottinger has been okay. I've always waited for him to take that next step into that top five, and he's doing fine, but he just hasn't quite elevated himself there yet. So, based on my own experience playing the 2016 World Cup, we had a talk. John Tortorella sat us down, me, Quick, and Bishop, and said, here's how it's going to go. Quickie, you start. It's your net. Bish, I want to maybe get you in. And Schneid's like, you're basically the number 3. Like, I'd love to get you in. I don't know if you can or not. So I think that discussion has to be had, either Billy Guerin or the coaching staff, just to set expectations. But you want guys to be ready. You don't want guys checking out or saying, I'm just here for a vacation, I'm not going to play. Because that did happen a little bit on our team. There were guys who weren't playing and were kind of annoyed that they had to come here and do this when they weren't going to play. So you have to make sure that everyone understands the expectations, and then you go from there. But I think absolutely I don't think Hellebuyck should have to lobby. I think the first discussion is, hey, guys, Helly's a starter. I'm going to put one of you guys into one of these games and be ready in case he gets hurt or something happens. And that's the first discussion that should be had with the goalies.
Corey, we were talking, and we have been talking all week about, we'll call it the level of commitment from the players that play in this tournament. You just mentioned you play in the World Cup. How was that from an intensity level compared to NHL playoffs? And do you believe here at the Four Nations face-off that we're going to see that same type of intensity, maybe even more, not just like a NHL All-Star style type of play?
Yeah, I'm hopeful and confident that it'll be really good this year. I think we haven't had best on best in 8 or 9 years. A lot of these guys are doing it for the first time. That generation of player who hadn't played in the Olympics, and McDavid and Matthews, those guys, this is their first crack at it. So I think they're going to be fired up and they're going to be ready to go. It depends as the tournament goes on. If you're 0-2 after the first 2, how's that third game going to look for that team? Are we going to give it everything we have? Or are we, looking at their vacation and, the rest of the bye week heading back into the season? So I think to start, though, those first few games are going to be as advertised, and guys are going to be going full bore. And it could be a little chaotic. You haven't played with these guys before. There's not a lot of time to put in systems and get familiarity, so it could be a little chaotic. But I think you're going to see energy and passion to start for sure.
That's what we're hoping for. Thank you, Corey, for putting up with us, man. Next time it'll be just hard-hitting journalism.
I'll get my referee jersey and whistle out next time.
Absolutely. Thanks for doing this. Appreciate it.
All right, guys.
Cory Schneider joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline.
Let's make a pact. We're never going to be sewering guys saying, like, Hayes, you said, Doug said this, or never again between the three of us.
Yeah,
never
between
again.
The three of us.
Not with Jonas, not with Schneider, anything.
Never again.
Well, there's been a sewering here the first, 80 minutes of the show.
I love
just
it, man.
Left
just
and right,
down in the
finger
gutter.
pointing. It's just gritty.
Well,
Everyone's
Doogie,
crabby today.
So back to this top 25 list, Hayes, your interpretation of the list is, because Noodles, I did have a problem with one thing you said. You said you're bringing in reputation.
Well,
I don't think that's any part of the list.
I understand what, I think I misspoke. I just have a tough time leaving a guy like Auston Matthews out of the top 10 because that's injury. That's not poor play. So I was like, okay, when he's playing and when he's playing well, he is a top 10 player for me. And that's what I understand you can dip. I just interpreted, I think, a different way than Hayes. I'm not disagreeing on the fact that if we're doing it based on who's had the best season, then you look at Travis Konechny's got to be right up there because he's had an amazing season, right?
Yeah.
But I would argue, in a vacuum, do you put Konechny ahead of Auston Matthews? I don't, personally. That's just, I have a tough time with that. That's why I don't love these lists, because I find that I struggle with them because I sleep on it and then I go and redo it again. I get too invested in it.
I hear what you're saying. I think that's the beauty of this. We've established why TSN loves doing it, because everyone's got a different viewpoint, and I think it's a great exercise. I find this one, different because, the top 50 is a projection. Before the year, you project how you see the season playing out, right? And it's a formality. Everyone starts with McDavid, 1, because that's where he should be. He's the best player in the world, and that's it. And then you can debate, will it be McKinnon 2, McCarr, Matthews, who knows? But then you play the games, and you get to where we are, like through 45 games, 50 games, and you recalibrate. You have to, because the games have been played. And like you said, you got Logan Thompson in the top 25. He's not one of the 25 best players in the world. He's not even close. With all due respect, playing great. He's not one of the 25 best players in the world. But this year he has been one of the 25 best players in the league.
Yeah.
No question he has been. So that's my point, and that's where I'm at with Matthews. It has nothing to do with how I feel about him as a player. It's that he's played 35 games. He's got 38 points. I think prior to this most recent comeback, he was never himself. Like he never looked like he wasn't dominant Auston Matthews. Right. So that was my consideration. Yeah. And do I think he could be? Do I think he'll be one of the 25 best players for the final 32 games? Absolutely, he will be. Right. Might he be the best? That wouldn't shock me. Top 3 for sure. Top 5, but it's about looking back on what you've seen so far.
Yeah,
and that's where I stood on it.
It's a good point, and it's a good exercise. I mean, Draisaitl should be right there at one.
For sure.
He's, of course. Quinn Hughes, Nathan McKinnon. I had all those guys in my top 5. That's what I looked at.
Let me ask you this, because we've had this conversation. I think I think if you had a vote tonight for the Hart, would you give it to Draisaitl?
Yes, I would.
So how
I think about the goalie from Wash, to be honest with you.
For the Hart?
Yeah, as of right now.
That's a take, man. I love that take.
I'm going to send him a text right now and say, hey, Logan, I got a guy who's got you up for the Hart.
They have the best record in the league, and it's an unbelievable story, and he's 26-2. How can you not look at that? If that was Vasilevsky, we'd hand him the Hart Trophy. Well, so why are you ignoring him? Because it's Logan Thompson.
I hear you. I'm not doing that with Hellebuck. I think Hellebuck.
Well, obviously Hellebuck's in there too with his performance.
Well, you had Hellebuck at 1, I had McDavid at 1, and you're having Logan
Thompson at 1.
Logan Thompson.
I don't have Logan. You guys are idiots, man.
Well, if he's up for the Hart, he's got to be in the top 3.
I'm not saying he's up for the Hart, but wouldn't you, all I said was I'd have to think about the goalie from Washington. Those are my exact words.
Very reasonable the way he's playing. In all seriousness, the guy has been phenomenal.
Unbelievable. And you know what? It is a great exercise. I think where I struggle with, and this is where if you take it to heart, you're looking at guys going, okay, I know what this guy's capable of. I know what I've seen from him. I know there's been injuries. I think you overthink it sometimes too much, and that's where because I leave people off my list. I'm like, okay, where's Sam Reinhart in my list? I'm like, God, I got to find a spot for him.
Yeah,
Zach Werenski has come into my list because I'm like, he's having an amazing season, right?
Absolutely, he's been phenomenal.
But where do I find him in my list? Kaprizov, I had in my list. Now this injury, I've struggled with.
He's been injured a lot too, but I think when he's been playing as well as anybody in the league.
Top tier.
Yeah, the guy was a Hart Trophy favorite 30 games into the year.
Yeah.
And now, he's obviously been hit with the injury bug, but he's technically played more games than Matthews. I think he has 20 more points than Auston.
Yeah. Kyle Connor.
Connor's phenomenal, man. This guy.
I don't know if he gets enough love.
I don't think he does.
He doesn't, man.
I'm strapping him on a line with Jack Hughes down on the or with Eichel maybe on that second line down there, and he is going to rip home serious goals.
What about Kyle Connor, Matthews in the middle, Eichel on the right side?
Dangerous.
You're
that USA's roster, man.
They're going to be dangerous.
I'm telling you, it's dangerous. It's damn dangerous.
They're real good. Well, here's a question for you guys. Where would Matthew Tkachuk still land? Because he's had kind of a quiet year.
Yeah, he's had a down year. You can't even dispute it.
Yeah, he still would scare you in big moments, right?
But if the playoffs started right now, you would say, pick me an X factor, and I would go right to him first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
even with the down production.
Yeah. So he doesn't make your top 25, but he's got 44 points in 46 games, 15 goals. But it's Matthew Tkachuk. That's where I think I struggle with. does he make your list or not make your list? Like that's
No.
in a one-game scenario. You're like, I want that guy, but he
course.
can't make your list. Like
Of
it's just
course.
a very unique.
Anyway,
struggle.
we'll get to that. I don't even know when they're rolling that out. So here we are yelling and screaming about it.
I can't wait to unveil your list. Your list is going to send shockwaves through the hockey community, man.
I don't think our lists are made
Shockwaves.
public, are they? I think we just.
I
have
want
to tell
Hayes'
them.
list. I
You
want
want mine
Hayes'
public?
list. Yes.
You want mine public?
Yeah.
I got the stones to put mine public.
Go ahead.
I'll throw
When it's
mine
all
out
said
there.
and done, I
might
want
have
it
to.
up there, and we will do the whole show, 3 hours breaking it down.
A
I want to
full
bring
breakdown.
Dude, I want an insider, I want the quiz master, and I want Lanesy to look at
see,
your
the-
list and break it down and say, what did this guy do?
the
I want a whole
Quizmaster-
show on it.
The Quizmaster will be going nuts over his list because Hayes is being a contrarian on certain things. So it's like
I
I
don't
can't.
think
But I
believe-
think the Quizmaster has respect for that.
He
He has
loves it.
respect
That's
for
what
a
I'm saying.
guy to have conviction on certain elements of it.
He would drive to Hayes' house and buy him a steak dinner because he'd be like, "That is the greatest list I've ever seen."
Yeah.
that's what the Quizmaster would
I
do.
got quite the list, man. I'm looking at it right now. I love my list.
I'm
I love
questioning
where my
mine.
list
Like
is at.
I feel like I'm going to struggle. I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning and be trying to adjust my list now. It's
Yeah.
terrible.
I
wow.
have quite the list. All right, Jerry's percentages coming up. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.
You're gonna want to hear this.
Jerry's percentages.
I don't love being commissioner as much as I used to. I actually love it even more.
That's the voice of a Hall of Famer.
Are you kidding? Have you been out drinking?
You're all pigeons. Filthy, filthy pigeons.
It's Gerry. Gerry.
All right, Jerry's percentages on a beautiful Wednesday here in Toronto with the Leafs in action tonight. Lots of hockey action. We got the Four Nations coming up. Jerry's a very busy guy, but we appreciate him finding some time for us today. You guys ready?
Hit it.
Yep.
Jerry wants it on the record that he's a big fan of Spartacat the mascot. Jerry will dummy anyone that causes him trouble. Because the Sens are staying in Ottawa and they'll finish top 3 in the Atlantic this season.
Ooh, man. Okay, he's a Spartacat fan, and he's got Ottawa sticking in the top 3 in the Atlantic. No wild card.
First
for
of all,
Sparty.
Jerry, I'm 100% on the Sens staying in Ottawa.
Yeah.
I think this was all a little shot saying, let's get this thing moving. Let's get our rink downtown. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
As far as top 3 in the Atlantic, this is what I call a double Jerry. I'm also going to go 70%. Because I saw their number 1 goalie skating around this morning in some clips online. I think he had some different type of equipment on, but I'm not sure. I don't even want to speculate on that.
Mm-hmm.
But if he comes back and he's dialed in, because this guy is good when he's on his game. Jamie, you know that as good
good.
as anyone.
Very
Like
good. Very good
he's a
goalie.
top-end goaltender. If he gets in there and says, this last chunk of the season, this is what they really brought me for, and I'm real hesitant in even saying that because I have no idea if this is possible, and they just keep the train rolling, the Sens are in
Okay.
a top 3 spot.
Top 3.
It's a double Jerry, staying in Ottawa and staying in the top 3 in the Atlantic.
Okay, so staying in Ottawa, I'm 100%. That's non bueno. I'm lower on this. I'm going to be 20%. I just think they're going to be in a dogfight. I think Tampa is a team that had got a bunch of home games coming up. I think they're going to climb into a spot in there. So I think Florida has just been kind of cruising along. They're 1 point back of the Leafs. So to me, I see them in a playoff spot, but I see them in a wild card spot for me personally.
Okay. 100% Ottawa, of course. 100% support of Sparty the Cat, right? We all love Spartacat. I'll be honest, like Boston's in trouble here. We're not even talking
They'd be in
about Boston.
serious trouble,
Like
man.
they're in serious trouble. Tampa has just been very inconsistent all year, and I think you got to give them the benefit of the doubt that they're gonna flip the switch with 25 games to go or whatever, get to the break and then come out and just start flying. I think that will likely happen, but they've leaked some oil here. I'm gonna say 40%. Like I would lean Tampa. I guess Boston's still in the hunt. You know, they are, and the Habs are still technically kicking around.
Yeah, the one goalie that we haven't talked about who signed the big contract is Swayman. What's he up to in net?
I'm telling you, I've watched Boston play a bunch of times. They're a mess in their own zone. Swayman is I know his numbers are inflated. I get it, but you cannot blame that on Swayman. That game against New Jersey, where all the focus was Markstrom getting injured. Mm-hmm. New Jersey dummied them in the second period. They had 2-on-0s. It was nasty. Swayman's actually hung them in. And I talked to Andy Brickley the other day. I talked to Bobby Beer, some of the guys who do the off-ice stuff, do what I do. Mm-hmm. They've been, Swayman's not the problem there.
How do you have those big bastards back there and it's a clown show in your own end? I don't get it.
Okay, so, and this was brought up to me, not by those guys, but by a scout that night. Take your top 2 defensemen off any team and see how you're going to fare. They're missing McAvoy and Lindholm. Mm-hmm. That's
enough said.
That's trouble.
Some significant minutes. Now, again,
they paid Zadorov a lot of money. He has not fit in well there.
But Zadorov's not a number one.
I understand that. But
I'm just saying, my thing is let's see what they do if those guys get healthy. Apparently Lindholm's skating. Apparently McAvoy's skating. If they get healthy, at least it's going to help the defensive side of that team. Mm-hmm. But it was asked. I was sitting. I saw a scout in between periods, and he's like, "Man, look at this team." And I asked him, "What's your opinion?" He goes, "Well, take any team that you could name off." And he goes, "Name a team." And he goes, "Take your top 2 defensemen off, and those minutes and how they play." And he said, that's what that team's having to go through, and they're not super deep. Right?
Valid.
I think it's a valid point.
Yeah, for sure. But that speaks to why we're saying what we're saying. Boston's 100%. In legitimate trouble, big trouble. And Tampa has not looked great or dominant really all year. So Ottawa's got a chance. They got a chance to not just get in, but maybe get into that 3 spot in the Atlantic. All right, Gerry, what else do we have?
Jerry's worst nightmare is going to come true because one of Tampa or Boston will miss the playoffs.
Wow. Gerry was listening to our little commentary there.
One of Tampa or Boston will miss?
Yep.
I'm kind of high. I think one of them misses. I think it's 60%. Just because the simple fact of life is not everybody just says, oh, I'm this, so I get that. Sometimes just for both of them, one of them just says not this year. And I would obviously lean Boston more Tampa. I'm going to say 60% one of them misses.
Okay.
I'm lower on this because I have to stick with my prediction. I thought Tampa's going to win the Atlantic. Mm-hmm. I still think they can, but you never know.
They got to get rocking if they're going to do that. But yes, they're in the hunt.
What are they? 7 points back?
7 back. Yeah. 6 back in Florida.
Yeah. So point being is, I think Tampa's fine. Mm-hmm. I think Boston is the one that has struggled, but I'm not going 60. I'm going 25%. One of 4.
Yeah. I mean, their history would suggest they deserve the benefit of the doubt over thinking Ottawa can finally do it, or Columbus is going to do it, or Montreal. Yeah. You got to think of who they're competing with here. Detroit, or the Rangers looked like they were cooking. Now they've lost 2 in a row and hasn't been going so well. So did they really figure it out, or did they get red hot for 2 weeks? I'm going to say 49%. 49% just on the inside of that number, and it's more so because of the teams competing. And I'm with you with Tampa. I think Tampa will figure it out and get in. Boston, because of the injuries, and again, they haven't been playing great. Now, without Ullmark there, you've got Swayman, and then you're not going back and forth the same way.
Well, Korpisalo's given them some minutes, but it just at the end of the day, they've got to play better. You can't defend it. I wasn't making excuses for it. I watched them play the other day, and I was like, okay, what are they missing? What's going on here? Mm-hmm. Then you start to dig in. You're like, okay, there's some injuries here. You got to sort that out. But at the end of the day, one thing too, guys, is I don't think I think the Rangers are a playoff team. So if you believe that, or you're close, or they're close to it, somebody's got to come out, right?
Exactly.
So you're right. It is. Everything's on the table. That's the thing. I keep saying it, and we're going to say it daily. You're going to scoreboard watch and schedule watch because you're like, everything's on. You lose 5 games in a row, you're in.
Yeah. Boston's played 52 games too. They got 30 left. Like there's
yep,
not
ready to go.
You don't have a lot of wiggle room. Any of these teams like Columbus, Detroit, Ottawa, all of them. You only have so much opportunity here to stay in the fight or possibly win it.
Yeah.
All right, Gerry, what else do you have?
Leon Draisaitl will win the Hart and Art Ross.
Ooh, a little double shot for Leon, according to Gerry. And in case you're wondering, right now Nathan MacKinnon is leading the league in points with 78. Leon Draisaitl in second with 75. 3 points behind him.
I am going to go 70% on this.
On
just
both?
because on both.
It's a double shot,
It's
Gerry,
a double shot in one combo, Gerry.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to go 70 because he's done it before. I think he's done it twice before, hasn't he?
Well, he's won the Hart once.
Won the Hart.
The Art Ross, he won it that year, I believe. I don't know if he's won the Art Ross
Well, the
twice.
guy's done it. I know that. And
Yes,
I'm just confident he's going to do it again.
Yeah, I mean, who's in the Hart conversation for you guys? I've got Draisaitl, I've got Quinn Hughes, I'm missing
Hellebuck, McKinnon.
Hellebuck, McKinnon, like they're all in there, right?
Maybe Kucherov. McDavid, he's still got time. McDavid could still do it.
I think Draisaitl is been great, and they're both within striking distance. So I'm going to go playing the field. I'm going to go under 50%, but like in that 47% type of thing. I think he's got the inside track, but the players he's up against, I mean, they're all special too, so they all can go on
Big
a heater
time.
here.
And there's the odds, courtesy of FanDuel right now. The Hart Trophy odds: Leon Draisaitl plus 170, Nathan MacKinnon plus 260. Hellebuck is leapfrog McDavid, which is interesting. Hellebuck's plus 350, McDavid plus 550.
Does that go up and down daily, obviously?
Yeah, it changes all the time.
It's based on people betting, right?
And the markets, exactly. Like who are people putting money on? And I'm going to say 25% just because it's a double shot. I think he's probably in the driver's seat to win the Hart right now. That's reasonable. Again, we just saw the odds. But, you're chasing the Art Ross here. Kucherov's a point behind him. Kucherov could easily win that. McKinnon could win. McDavid still could. McDavid's, 9 points behind him and 10 points behind McKinnon. McDavid could still win the Art Ross.
That's a big week for him.
Exactly. Listen, Mitch Marner's in the hunt for the Art Ross. Marner's got 68 points. He's 10 points off the mark. So he's in the hunt. Rantanen's in the hunt. Kyle Connor's up there. Like there's a lot of Canadian content in the top 10.
Yeah.
All right, Gerry, what else do we have?
You just heard me say Draisaitl will win the Hart. Well, how's this for a New Balance shoe flex from Gerry? The other two nominees will be Connor Hellebuck and Quinn Hughes.
Oh, wow. New Balance shoe flex.
Dude, if you are familiar with a New Balance shoe flex,
it's a heavy lean, man. It's a heavy lean. And Gerry's got Draisaitl, Hellebuck, and Hughes as your three nominees for the Hart.
That has got to be. It can't be that high to get all three right. I'm going to say there's 30% chance that those are the three left. I just think if Vancouver's season somehow goes up in smoke, it's going to be hard for Quinn Hughes to get votes. And that is my reason for 30%.
For sure.
You're right. But the scary part is if it doesn't, say they can make the playoffs, they'll be in a playoff spot in a week potentially. I know Calgary's pushing it'll be a dogfight for that spot. But they make the playoffs. I think Quinn Hughes really pushed himself into that conversation.
Big time.
He's been the only constant on that team. Lankin has been really good in net. They've had some other guys, but it's been Quinn Hughes that has dragged that team to a playoff spot potentially. That to me is the definition of MVP, right?
I totally agree.
I'm a little higher, but I agree. I think there's other guys that are just going to slide in there down the stretch or whatever. McDavid goes crazy or whatever, but I'll say 47%.
Ooh. I mean, the thing is the rarity of a goalie or a defenseman being up for the Hart. Like, that is something you got to consider. But I think from a narrative standpoint, and narrative drives this a lot with the voting, I think Quinn Hughes has the potential for a narrative explosion here. Sure. Where they maybe make a deal and then they take off and Hughes is unreal and he leads the league in points by a defenseman. And
he was the guy that kept the whole operation together.
Screams narrative for him. So I kind of feel good about that. And Hellebuck, I think, has been the best player on the best team this year. And his stats, you have to go back and look at the Carey Price year when he won it or when Shesterkin was up for. I don't think this is much different than Shesterkin. Put it that way. What Shesterkin was a couple of years ago. That Rangers team was really good. He was great. He got up for it. But you're playing the field, and these are two random positions, generally speaking. I'll say 15%. Yeah. 15. But those are three of the 7 or 8 guys that are going to be up for it, right? They're in the running for sure. One more here, Gerry. What do you have?
If the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, then Mahomes is the MVP, and if the Eagles win, then Barkley wins the MVP. The way Gerry sees it, it's as simple as that.
Okay. Another double shot here from Gerry. I like it.
That's 100% on both. Those are the go-to guys. Obviously, the quarterback is the focal point when it comes to the MVP of the winning team. Mm-hmm. But it seems like Barkley's the guy for the Eagles, where he's the guy that stirs the drink, man, for the Eagles. Hurts could still have a great game and still get the MVP, but I think the odds-on would be on Barkley. I'm 100% on this, though.
Okay.
Wow.
100%.
Well, don't you think if the Eagles pull it off, Saquon Barkley gets 3 TDs?
It seems that way, and he's been the guy. Yet, Hurts, what if Hurts has just the game of his life?
Well, dude, Hurts had 3 TDs the last game they played in, but so did Saquon Barkley, but nobody talked about Hurts.
No, exactly. And now Hurts was like a tush-push kind of thing.
I get it. Still 3 TDs, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm lower, but I believe Barkley, but I just – Hurts could – he could be the story. Because now you're going head-to-head against Mahomes. If you beat Mahomes – mm-hmm. That's the storyline, and the QB always gets the love.
Always gets it. Always gets the love.
I'm a little lower on this, so then I'm going to go with 60%.
Okay, and listen, Travis Kelce, could you see him winning and retiring on the field? And are we going to do this again with the will he propose to Taylor Swift on the field after the Super Bowl? I think we'll do that again. Let's save that. I
don't think he's that cheesy to do that, man.
You don't think so?
Close.
No,
I don't.
Close.
He's pretty corny, man, with his his chant. You got the right to fight. It's all right, man, we got you. He's always chanting out and singing the songs to the crowd. But he could do it. Pacheco maybe, Worthy maybe, AJ Brown maybe, Hurt. There's just other guys. I'll say 51%. It seems very likely it's either Mahomes or Barkley, but the field is out there. All right, Darren Dreger in 20 minutes. Leafs and Raptors in action tonight. Raptors have now won 4 in a row. They're a favorite, 5.5-point favorite on FanDuel against Washington tonight. What are they doing? Are you trying to win now? Are you trying to lose? Scotty Barnes has been on fire recently. That's certainly a positive. We'll get into that around 6:30. Best bet still to come as well. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, Darren Dreger coming up, our TSN Hockey Insider. His take on Brandon Saad being bought out by the Blues, I guess mutually agreed upon. What kind of market is out there for Saad? Could he be linked to the Maple Leafs? He played for Craig Berube in St. Louis in the past. So we'll get to Dregs on that, and also the Leafs and Wild in action tonight. And Leafs are at home tonight. You're not going to see them at home for a couple of weeks with them hitting the road and going through Western Canada. They obviously have a stop in Seattle, and then they've got the Four Nations face-off. So it's going to be a while before you see them play again at home. So take advantage tonight.
As far as Saad goes, Hayes, obviously I think they might like the player. How can you not like what Brandon Saad has been all about? Might not be the player he was in Chicago winning cups, but they would have a body problem, I believe, if they you know what I mean. Don't they have a lot of bodies up front?
Yeah, they got a lot of guys. If
that would be a body problem. If you would have to do something about that.
But that's where you waive somebody, or that's where you move somebody out.
No question. I'm just saying that would have to be done.
Yes, if you believe the player you're bringing in is an upgrade on player X that you have, then you do something with player X. And I think there would be some candidates. I don't know where Connor DeWar fits in on their depth chart, how much they love him or not. He's a nice player. I think he's good. There's Holmberg. There's all of these guys, Camp, all of them. If you believe somebody is an upgrade on that, that's where – if you're trading for, let's say at the deadline, a centerman, somebody's got to go out.
That's
got
another
a great room, right?
If Saad's coming in to play the wing and you're still seeking out a centerman, then that's 2 bodies that would be coming in.
But I would argue, Brian, this is what we were talking about, with the Klingberg situation in Edmonton, like it's a free look. It's a free body, right? If it doesn't work out, the guy makes $1 million, you waive him, you move on, and he still doesn't, take up that coveted spot you're probably looking for at the deadline. And Saad just became available. So if Tree's looking at him, that's kind of a free look if you like him.
It is, but as O's saying, a free look is going to cost you somebody likely having to go, right?
Yeah,
like you got to give
right.
up a contract to get them, and there's only so many guys you can have under the cap and on your roster, and obviously they've been scouting him. I'm sure he's been available via trade, and no one wanted to trade for him, right? Like why wouldn't St. Louis trade him if they could? So I do wonder, there'll be a market for him, but teams I'm sure have a pretty good read on what they think they're getting. And you gotta risk that, right? If you bring him in and you move off another guy, that's the question. We'll ask Dregs about that and more coming up in the next hour. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.